Welcome to Solopreneur Success Strategies. I'm Jane Gardner, and welcome to Jill and our Jack of All Trades Thursday. Always awkward, but I'll explain why it's called Jill or Jack of All Trades Thursday in a minute. So let me welcome you to Solopreneur Success Strategies. I'm Jane Gardner, and this is Jill or Jack of All Trades Thursday. On Jill or Jack of All Trades Thursday, I like to call it, oh my goodness, day for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, because as a Jill or Jack of all trades, you have to learn a little bit about a lot of things in order to keep control of your business. Yeah, we have been over HTML for the first 4 weeks, and now we're doing some stuff about cash flow and revenue and price points for another 2 weeks probably, as well as we have to learn a little WordPress in order to keep control of our website. And we need to know about email and how to keep in touch with our clients and how to have a good customer experience. But that's on and on, as we like to say. We'll be looking at sales and selling, as well as subscriber lists, email, website, cash flow we've been looking at, your computer, what's it, and on and on and on. There's always something to get to know. But first, get to know me. I'm Jane Gardner, and I work with my husband, our structural engineering firm, for the last 20 years. We live in Western Canada, and we have dogs and cats, and we like to travel. And I have been on the internet for about 3 years now, looking at the various things that's going on in the internet today. And I decided that this would be probably the most useful thing for me to do, is to do some trainings that are free for you to get some idea on what it's like to be a solopreneur and some of the skills and knowledge you should have as a solopreneur. For example, we talked about HTML and how it can be used to control your website, look and appearance, as well as the reasons why you should know some HTML to keep control of your website. But today we're talking about finances, and I'll show you what we've been talking about today. But for today, we're going to talk about just quickly how to do a price point for your product or service. I assume that you have one. And if not, this is good because we can talk about it today. So today we're going to talk about how to quickly determine a price point for your product or service. Last week, we looked at the idea of revenue. What is revenue? And I know that some people would say it's the income, but it's not. Revenue, it can either be a gross profit or it can be a net profit of sales that are coming into your business. We looked at your cash flow and what it is. We looked briefly at price point and some way that you can figure out a price point in terms of your revenue and expenses. And of course, the fourth most important concept you need to know in terms of your finances is expenses. You need to look at the cost of your goods or products that you're creating, as well as your business expenses, and take away your business expenses and cost of goods from your revenue and find out what your net income is. But we'll look at it at another day, get a rough idea on how to read an income statement and balance statement. But today we're going to be looking at price point for your product or service. So when we have been looking at your price point of your product or service, first of all, we looked at your customer. On another day, we look at, on World Domination Wednesday, we look at your customer and you, and how you sell to your customer. And on another day, we looked at your customer profile and what your customer is going to want to have from you as the solution to their problem or a solution to fulfill their desire. So we've done lots of research on your customer profile. And then also you have to look at your competitors and how they market to your customers. So what are the prices like for your competitor in your marketplace? What unique value do they offer to your customer? And on Get Your Message Out Tuesday, we looked at your brand and your business and how you can differentiate yourself from your competitors and get unique so that people recognize you as a brand. But you also have to look at your competitors. And so how does your competitor innovate, and how do this translate into a better value for their product? So you have to ask all this research about, go and have a look at your competitors and what they have as a price point for their product or service. And what do you think the customers who are attracted to your competitor are buying, and why from them? So you do research on that. And then you look at the value versus the price of the product or service. What is the value, the use that someone gets out of a product? That is the most important thing. What is the result that the customer will get from the product or service? We looked at that in terms of your brand another time as well. And the price is the actual amount that people will pay for a product. As you know, one man's woman or trash is another man's woman or treasure. So you always have to look at the value that someone gets out of a product, as well as then looking at the actual amount people pay for the product. So what can you do to add value that doesn't necessarily involve adding cost? So you look at your product or service and ask, what kind of value can you add? Can you speed up the process for creating the product? Can you improve the quality of the product? Can you be more trustworthy or reliable as a service or product in your company? Can you improve your customer service to increase value in your product? Or is there any new technology or new other products that you can wrap with the product or service and create a product or service of greater value? Can you make the process easier for creating your product or service so you can reduce the costs of your product? These are some of the things you can look at in terms of adding value that won't increase the costs. And of course, you always have to look at what is the bottom line for your product or service. You have to look at how much the raw materials cost, how much the labor is in terms of your cost of your product, what are the instruments that are used for the labor to create the product, how much time is involved in using those instruments, and also look at the external costs of an overhead cost of your business and how you can incorporate that as a percentage of the cost of your product or service so that you can have a bottom line for what the cost plus pricing is for your product or service. You should always be looking at your costs and seeing how much you can incorporate as a percentage into the price of your business, product, or service. So then you want to look at what are your revenue targets and your profit margins you want for your product or service. So you always look at the end result and start at the end and work your way back. So what are your revenue targets that you want to have, and decide how much you want to earn in a certain period of time, which defines what your profit margin will be and how much profit you'd like to make on each product or service. And then, of course, as I mentioned previously, then you look at the ways that you can reduce certain costs so that you have a greater profit margin. So, of course, you don't want to underprice and you don't want to overprice your product or service, because customers usually buy because of value. They don't buy because of price. So you don't want to undervalue your product, which customers then decide that it may be something wrong with the product because it might hurt the perception of the value of the product. Whereas overpricing, of course, can drive customers over to your competitors. So it's always a balancing act to figuring out what is the value for your product and how to price it in terms of the value rather than pricing it in terms of your competition. So what you can do, of course, is get some regular customer feedback from your customers as to why they bought the product and what do they perceive about the product, and as to what the value of the product and whether they're getting the value that they perceived from it, of course, from the product. So you take each customer opportunity for getting feedback as valuable time for you, whether it's asking a quick question after they buy a product and hopefully they give you feedback, or if you do a survey of your customers. Just make it an ongoing part of your business operations to see why your customer bought and get some feedback from them as to why they bought it, what the perceived value of it was for them for getting it, and then what else would they like as value for the product or other products they would be interested in maybe buying. Obviously, you don't do this every single time, but you do it on an occasional basis, on a regular basis, just to see how your price is doing in terms of your customer, if they're perceiving it as the value that they receive from the product in order to get it for themselves. So that basically is what you're doing all the time in your business. You're testing any new idea for pricing. You can test new offers and prices on your new customers. You can test new offers and prices on your regular customers. You can also use A/B split testing, where you can offer the same product at two price points to two different markets and see how the response is to that price, and of course adjust it accordingly. So there is no magic pill in terms of pricing a product. It's a matter of testing and finding out what your competition is doing, as well as testing using some A/B split testing, just going out into the market and making an offer. So that is basically a sum up of how to do a pricing for your product. There is no magic pill. It's all a matter of working on figuring out what is the competition doing for pricing the similar offer, as well as what can you do to test and see whether or not there is a market for the product or service that you have, and if your solution is what your customer wants. And if you can ask your customer occasionally, get feedback from them as to what the customer wants, this is the perfect way to figure out basically what kind of price you can make a certain offer. So on that note, I will give you my current offer on Jill or Jack of all trades. Hopefully it'll show up. I have a current offer for HTML5 code to be a website ninja, where you can learn very quickly in 6 days or less in video and through live feedback from me how to change colors, create hyperlinks, optimize your images, videos, and audios, create the meta tags you need in your website, especially WordPress websites, how to make an ordered and unordered lists, and how to validate the HTML that you create, as well as what HTML editors you can quickly use to create a sales page, have a sales button. And of course, for those of us who are always doing WordPress, we love aligning our images and how to use the div tag, which is the most often used tag I find when you're using that, of course, as well as creating hyperlinks in order to get people to go over to various web pages in your WordPress website. So you can go to http://html5 and have a look at the offer over there. It's coming up soon, so I hope you'll participate and learn how to become a Jill or Jack of all trades. Oh, maybe I'll show you how to do XSplit one day, and so that you can have your own show. I just moved one of my XSplit buttons, so we got a bit confused there. So this is basically Jill or Jack of all trades. We learned a little bit about price point, and I hope it gave you some ideas on figuring out how to create the price for your product or service. Basically, go look at your competitors see what they're pricing it at, decide what kind of value you have in relative to them, how you can differentiate yourself from them. You can certainly go and have a look at my Solopreneur Success Strategy branding topic, which was on Get Your Message Out Tuesday for the last 4 weeks over on my YouTube channel, as well as have a look at customer research on my World Domination Wednesday YouTube on Solopreneur Success Strategies YouTube channel, as well as what else could you look at? Could look at everything there. At Solopreneur Success Strategies YouTube channel, which is at http jgtips.com/YouTube YOUTUBE. And if you're not been on the internet, you've got to know the word YouTube to go over there, because YouTube is a great place for trainings, and I have lots of trainings under my Solopreneur Success Strategies YouTube channel. So have a look at those as well, and you'll get an idea on the things you have to think about when you're branding yourself and also what your customer wants, etc., and how to find out and do the research on that. So talk to you next week on finances, business numbers, and next I'll be talking about free software you can use on Freebie Fridays. So hopefully you will be listening to that as well. We'll be thinking about what free software we can use in our business so that I can highlight it to you tomorrow. So talk to you later.